Good evening, Bahamas. Coming up tonight.
A top BPL executive gives an update into the investigation on those fires at the Clifton Pair Power Plant.
The Attorney General responds to the PLP's comments on the recent blacklisting.
Our News is brought to you by Alive.
Welcome to Our News, and thanks for joining us. I'm Kyle Joaquin. Government is meeting with experts and is doing all in its power to get the Bahamas removed from a European Commission blacklist, according to Attorney General Carl Bethel. He slammed as baseless claims made by PLP leader Philip Davis, who said the administration's incompetence led to the recent blacklisting. Jillian Gray reports.
The Attorney General was frank in his comments as he called the PLP statement baseless.
Absolutely baseless. If we want to talk about incompetence, look at the record between 2015 and 2017, before we came to office, and you will see the epitome of incompetence.
Bethel was responding to opposition leader Philip Davis, who told PLP supporters last night that while members of the Minutes administration boast and brag about their negotiating skills, their incompetence led to the recent blacklisting by the European Commission. Davis said the F&M government screwed up for Bahamians, and it's a major blow for our country. However, Bethel said he cannot allow the opposition to spread false information. He claimed it was the utter neglect of the PLP that led the Bahamas to this point.
And if they really want to have a debate about it, it won't go well for them, because the facts are the facts. We are trying to have a mature approach to this, a national approach to it. We don't want to get into name calling, finger pointing, or anything like that. But for the opposition to spew falsehoods against the Prime Minister and against this government is simply not something that will be tolerated. We will answer with the truth.
In January, Prime Minister Dr. Hubert Minnis traveled to Brussels to meet with high-ranking officials of the European Commission. In February, Bethel also traveled to Brussels in an attempt to prevent the blacklisting. That attempt failed. The blacklisting has potential to cause reputational damage to the Bahamas and its financial services industry.
We went to discuss the BEPS initiative, which is the Base Erosion and Profit Shifting initiative, which is separate from the whole issue of anti-money laundering and terrorist financing. The blacklisting that arose after we returned to the Bahamas.
Bethel once again stressed that the Bahamas should not have been blacklisted and said the move was unjustifiable, as the Bahamas has greatly improved its anti-money laundering and counter-terrorism financing framework. He added that officials are working to have the Bahamas removed from that list.
We've been working on a strategy. We have been in consultation with lawyers who are very familiar with the workings of the European Union, who are aware of who the key personalities are. And in short order, the government will engage in the necessary consultations to see what we can do about this listing.
When asked if he was confident that their efforts will work, the AG said this.
I can't be confident of how other intelligent human beings in another country who feel they have other responsibilities that I don't have will react. Because at the end of the day, the European commissioners, whatever we say about their process, feel that they are mandated by an anti-money laundering directive to create a list. Our issue is that we feel we should not be on that list.
Reporting for Our News, I'm Jillian Gray.
All right, thanks, Jillian. Well, 6 months after the first of 3 blazes broke out at Bahamas Power and Light's Clifton Pair Power Plant, BPL Chairman Dr. Donovan Moxey revealed that officials are still awaiting key reports related to the case. Moxey telling reporters today that the results of an insurance investigation has yet to be handed over to BPL officials. Jasmine Brown has more.
Moxey was probed on those investigations as he revealed even BPL executives are awaiting some information.
We've received a report from the fire department, and that report has been shared with the government officials and cabinet. We also know that our insurers are still working on that and doing their investigation. They have a report which we have not seen, And so we've made a request of our insurers to provide that report.
Moxie's comments come 1 month after Public Works Minister Desmond Bannister told the Nassau Guardian that the results of the probe into the fires at Bahamas Power and Light's Clifton Pair Power Plant will soon be tabled in the House of Assembly. However, Bannister declined to comment on the details from the report or say exactly when the report would be tabled. Moxie was also tight-lipped.
Once we as BPL have all of the reports associated with the fire, we will then look to come to the public and actually make some statements on those.
A fire at BPL's Clifton Pair Power Plant on September 7th destroyed a generator. 2 more fires erupted at the site on September 9th and September 10th. A 4th fire affected the Blue Hills Power Plant on September 15th. BPL said preliminary investigations suggested that the electrical fire in the substation was caused by equipment failure. The fire severely impacted power generation at the Clifton Pair Power Plant, forcing BPL to bring in rental generators. Moxie said the move is not cheap. However, he declined to say how much it is costing BPL to rent the equipment.
I don't know offhand, but I know because of the combination of both the rental fees as well as the fuel, that's where the expense comes in. And even traditionally, when you look at rental units, they're typically supposed to put in place for temporary use. They should never be there for several years. And so when you think about that, just from a rental standpoint, traditionally it's much more expensive than owning something, owning an asset.
Moxie also says despite load shedding in recent months, BPL is working on plans to increase power generation at Clifton Pair in the upcoming months. Reporting for our News, I'm Jasmine Brown.
Well, despite the decrease in global oil prices, Moxie says the fuel surcharge attached to electricity bills will not be going down anytime soon.
We would anticipate over time as we complete our cost recovery that we should see a reflection and a reduction in those bills as well. Now, in terms of the timeline on that, I couldn't tell you right now.
Moxie insisted the fact of the matter is the fuel surcharge could be higher, but officials decided not to pass on the fuel costs.
Under the rules, IRCA says we have to pass all costs on to customers. And so IRCA being our regulator, we are essentially adhering to their rules. And so what we're doing as best we can as BPL is we're trying to soften the blow.
Now, the fuel surcharge typically makes up the majority of electricity costs for the consumer. BPL passes on the charge directly to the consumer. Last August, BPL capped its fuel charge at 19.15 cents per kilowatt hour. Though it fluctuated for the first half of 2018, the fuel surcharge increased last August and has yet to decrease. Hopefully,
the price of oil in the market remains where it is, because I think last summer it hit in the 80s. Right now it's around $60 to $70, so it's a little bit lower than it was. And so our hope is that global prices remain steady or even go down. But again, we have no control over that.
In other news, amid an opposition boycott of Parliament over the arraignment of persons described as PLP supporters, PLP leader Philip Davis insisted last night that he does not support corruption. During a PLP branch meeting, Davis asserted the Minister administration wants a PLP scalp to hold up and added accusations aren't the same thing as proof. Georgia Bain reports.
Progressive Liberal Party leader Philip Davis told a crowd of supporters at Monday night's Southern Joint Branch meeting that he does not support corruption in any form. Hitting out at the government for the handling of several recent cases that were taken before the courts involving party members and supporters, Davis called on the government to provide evidence and to follow the rule of law.
I'm not here, and I don't think any of you are here to defend anyone ever who takes money from the Bahamian people. You don't get to defend that. As far as I am concerned, if you take $1 from the public treasury, you are taking it from our kids, from our hospitals, and from our future.
Davis's comments come after former Urban Renewal Deputy Director Michelle Reckley was charged with defrauding the government of $1.2 million. When Reckley was charged last week, Davis led the opposition parliamentary team in a boycott of Parliament over what they termed the Minister administration's attack on democracy and prosecution of PLP supporters.
So, you show me the evidence of corruption, I stand ready to condemn you, no matter your power. But you can't skip over the evidence part. You can't skip over the evidence part. An accusation isn't the same thing as proof.
Former PLP Senator and Public Hospital Chairman Frank Smith was recently acquitted of charges of extortion and bribery. Chief Magistrate Joyanne Ferguson Pratt, in her ruling, said she did not find a scintilla of evidence to support the charges. Davis said the F&M has a short memory.
I remind you that when the F&M Fred Ramsey was prosecuted for bribery for about $300,000 in bribe in connection with the BEC contract, there was plenty of evidence enough to get him convicted. But that's right. But what we have going on now is something entirely different. This government decided they needed a PLP scale to hold up. They didn't have any evidence of any wrongdoing, but they weren't going to let that get in their way. And that's how you end up with invented evidence and manipulated court logs. One dirty deed after another.
Davis continued to call for the resignation of National Security Minister Marvin Dames, Health Minister Dr. Dwayne Sands, and Attorney General Carl Bethel. Reporting for Our News, I'm Giorgio Bain.
All right, thanks, Giorgio. Still to come, the Labor Minister applauds Commonwealth Brewery's handling of recent layoffs. Plus, the Transport Minister clarifies his comments on an upcoming right-sizing exercise. Stay tuned.